The Duke of Arvindale was a man carved from duty. For 20 years, he had ruled his lands with an iron composure that inspired loyalty and fear alike. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, a widower who kept his heart sealed within the cold stone walls of Arvindale Manor. His late wife had died in childbirth, leaving him heirless and bound to the cruel arithmetic of legacy. Without a son, his title would pass to a cousin he despised. And so, when the winter of his 39th year arrived, he made a decision born not of desire but of desperation. He would remarry, and secure an heir. He sent for candidates from noble families across the kingdom, young women of impeccable lineage, all schooled in grace, beauty, and silence. Yet none pleased him. Their eyes held calculation, not warmth. Until she appeared. Elara Venn, the governess to his late wife's niece, had no title, no dowry, and no ambition to rise above her station. She came to the castle only to escort her pupil home after a season of lessons. But one glance from her was enough to still the world. She was not beautiful in the manner of courtiers, no painted lips, no glittering jewels. But her eyes held a quiet fire, the kind that did not demand attention but burned all the same. "Your Grace," she said softly, curtsying before him, "my apologies for intruding upon your evening." The Duke had been reviewing letters, yet her voice, low, untrained, and trembling, drew his gaze. "It seems," he said after a pause, "you have already done so." Elara flushed, murmured an apology, and turned to leave. But something in the arch of her back, the trembling restraint of her composure, kept him watching long after she disappeared into the corridor. For weeks after, her presence lingered. He found excuses to summon her, to discuss her pupil's progress, to consult her on matters of household etiquette, to ask the most trivial questions, anything to hear that unassuming voice again. One evening, he found her alone in the library, replacing books the servants had scattered. Her hair had come loose from its pins, and the candlelight turned it to molten gold. "You do not seem like one who fears me," he said from the doorway. She startled, nearly dropping a volume. "I do, Your Grace. I fear what happens when I don't." He stepped closer. "And yet you speak to me as if I am merely a man." Elara swallowed, her pulse visible at her throat. "Perhaps because in this room, you seem to forget you are a duke." It was a dangerous truth. The next day, he dismissed his courtiers and cancelled the parade of potential brides. The decision scandalized the kingdom. He was seen no longer at council, only at his manor, often walking the gardens where the governess tended to the children. When rumors began, Elara tried to resign. "I cannot remain," she whispered, standing before him in the study. "Your Grace, people speak. They say I've ensnared you." He turned from the window, his eyes unreadable. "And have you?" She shook her head fiercely. "No. I would never." "Then let them speak," he said. "Let them choke on their envy." But the world beyond the manor was not so forgiving. Nobles whispered, the clergy frowned, and his cousin, Lord Percival, began circling like a vulture, whispering to the crown that the Duke had lost his senses over a commoner. Still, the Duke could not deny what he felt. One evening, during a thunderstorm that rattled the windows and drenched the gardens, he found Elara again in the library, the place where their unspoken bond had begun. He said nothing at first. He simply watched her. She was arranging books by candlelight, unaware of his presence until lightning flashed and illuminated his face. "Your Grace," she gasped, hand to her heart. "You frightened me." "I frighten everyone," he murmured. "Except you." She tried to reply, but words failed when he stepped closer. The air between them trembled. "Tell me to leave," he said, voice hoarse. She did not. And when he kissed her, the storm outside bowed to the storm within. But love, when forbidden, always carries a price. By spring, Elara's secret could no longer be hidden. She stood in the mirror of her small chamber, trembling as her hands pressed against the faint curve of her belly. A life, his life, had taken root within her. The Duke was overjoyed when she told him. He lifted her from her chair, laughing for the first time in years. "Then God himself has blessed us," he said. "Our child, my heir." But his joy was short-lived. When word reached Lord Percival, the cousin wasted no time. He arrived unannounced, with the crown's emissary beside him, demanding explanation. "She is your mistress," Percival sneered in front of the Duke's council. "And now you would legitimize her spawn?" The Duke's jaw tightened. "She carries my blood. That is all that matters." "The blood of a governess cannot sit upon a ducal throne," Percival spat. "You shame your house." A duel nearly erupted that night. The Duke would have struck his cousin dead had Elara not intervened. "Please," she begged, clutching his arm. "Do not give them what they want." He turned to her, eyes burning. And what is it they want, Ilara?
To see you fall, she whispered.
But fate, cruel and cunning, conspired to do just that. A letter arrived weeks later, sealed with the royal crest. The king demanded the duke's presence in court. Rumors had reached the capital, whispers of sin, of ambition, of witchcraft, for what else could explain how a mere governess had bewitched a duke? The night before his departure, Ilara came to him in the chapel. Candles flickered against the cold stone, painting her face in trembling light.
I will go away, she said quietly.
Let them call me what they wish. You can tell them I deceived you, that I fled. His hand tightened around hers. Do you think I would ever deny you? I think, she said through tears, you would do anything to protect this child. The duke stared at her, the woman who had given him not just an heir, but a heart he never knew he possessed. I would burn the kingdom for you, he said.
But she shook her head.
Then there would be no kingdom left for our child.
By dawn, she was gone.
The servants found her chamber empty, save for a note sealed with wax. Forgive me. Let our child live without shame. The duke rode after her through rain and wind, through forests and villages, until his horse collapsed beneath him. But she had vanished like mist.
For months, he searched.
His hair turned silver at the temples, his eyes hollowed by sleepless nights. Then, one autumn evening, a letter arrived, unsigned but in a familiar hand. It spoke of a small seaside village in the north. Of a woman teaching children by the shore. He rode there under disguise. And there she was, sitting beneath a tree, watching a little boy chase gulls along the sand.
The sight broke him. He approached slowly.
When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears.
You shouldn't have come, she whispered.
Do you truly believe I could stay away? The boy turned then, with the duke's dark hair and Ilara's smile, and ran toward them laughing.
Who is that, Mama? Ilara hesitated. The duke knelt, his voice breaking. A friend, my boy.
A friend of your mother's. That night, they spoke in whispers by the fire while the child slept. I have built a life here, she said.
Simple. Quiet.
No one asks who I am.
He looked into her eyes.
And are you happy? She smiled sadly. Happiness and peace are not the same thing.
He reached for her hand.
Come back with me. I can't, she said softly. If I return, they will tear us apart again. But here he is free. He kissed her fingers.
Then I will come here.
Again and again, until I die.
And he did.
Through the years, the Duke of Arvindale became a phantom figure, a ruler rarely seen at his manor, often vanishing for weeks. The whispers faded, replaced by legends, of a nobleman who rode north each spring to visit the sea. No one knew the truth, that love had stolen his crown but saved his soul.
Years passed.
The boy grew tall, curious and unafraid, a reflection of both his parents. The Duke watched from afar, never daring to claim him, content to be the stranger who brought gifts from the city, books, a carved horse, a compass to always find your way home. But time is merciless. When the Duke fell ill in his 56th year, word spread that he had taken to his bed, refusing the counsel of priests or kin. Lord Percival returned, circling once more for inheritance. He has no legitimate son, Percival declared before the court. The title is mine by blood and law. The Duke summoned his steward.
Write to her, he said weakly.
Tell her it is time. Days later, a carriage arrived at Arvindale Manor. Ilara stepped out, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes still alight with that same quiet fire. Beside her stood their son, now 15. The household gasped. When the boy entered the Duke's chamber, the old man's eyes filled with tears.
My son, he whispered.
Forgive me for the years I was only a shadow. The boy knelt beside him. Mother told me you were a good man. She lied kindly, the Duke rasped with a faint smile. But I thank her for it. Outside, Lord Percival raged, demanding guards remove them. But the Duke, with his last strength, signed a parchment, sealed with his crest and witnessed by the clergy. I name him heir, he said. For no law written by men can undo what God himself ordained.
The clergy hesitated, then bowed.
For in that room, with death drawing near, the truth carried more weight than any crown. When the Duke breathed his last, Ilara wept beside him, whispering, You found love after all. He smiled faintly. No, my love. Love found me. In the years that followed, their son, now Duke of Arvindale, ruled with a heart tempered by compassion. He restored the villages, opened schools, and forbade the cruel traditions of noble blood over common birth. And every spring, he and his mother returned to the northern shore, to the tree where it had all begun, where love, forbidden by the world, had built a kingdom of its own. As the waves broke against the cliffs, Ilara would whisper to the wind. He wanted an heir, but found love instead. And the sea, eternal witness to their story, carried her words across the waters, a tale of duty undone by devotion, of hearts that defied history, and of love that refused to bow.